Hey, Callie.
Hey, how are you?
Good, good. And hello to everyone joining us for our third debate panel of the day. And we're looking forward to it. We're going to wait just a couple more seconds for our third participant. And if we don't get a third participant, we might just have a lightning round of random debate topics picked off of the internet by yours truly as we go along, because we're going to have to fill this time.
Yeah, no, I'm up for it.
And I'm sure that Jared Shaner and Isaiah Bollinger will be very helpful in offering up topics that we might discuss, or maybe even join us here to discuss them with us. Isaiah says he has
Nice.
ideas.
Bring it on.
Going on behind me, awesome.
Sounds good.
So have you seen the two sessions so far?
I have.
Any of them?
I've really enjoyed them. The last one in particular, all I kept thinking was omnichannel, omnichannel, omnichannel.
Yeah.
I really, personally believe that omnichannel is the future. You see all these digitally native opening stores. Purple, for instance, was digitally native, and now they're opening their Purple stores. And then you see all these stores from COVID. Now they're going online. I think it really is going to be omnichannel all the way, in my opinion. But Ashley Scorpio was a great. I love the her debate on brand. I tend to be on her side on that one. I really do think brand is winner there. But you said it was a tie, so we'll leave it at a tie.
Yeah. Well, it's an interesting thing. It's like, my opinion would be, brand might get a sense of supremacy, but only after you've built that product that, sort of like establishes your, really establish the brand. I think of, like Ferrari, if it wasn't the best, engineered car that went faster and won Le Mans and the other things, is like, would Ferrari, the brand, be and probably not, right?
I could see that argument too. You have to have a foundation of a house where you can actually build the house, right?
Yeah.
You can't have a house up frame.
Yeah. But I think the other, and it's perhaps like a little insidious almost, is to Ashley's point about having a product come out of the same factory and it could be 6 or 7 times more because of the brand attached to it, rather than the sort of like generic one or something. And I'm actually reminded of which is super ironic that I'm going to mention and bring up Noam Chomsky in a for-profit business debate topic. But Noam Chomsky always says, like, sort of marketing, branding is a lot of the time about subverting markets and subverting rational decision making. Mm-hmm. That if we really were in a free market sort of paradigm, advertisements, branding really wouldn't even exist. It would just be sort of like, here's our product, here's what it does, and here's what it costs, right? That would sort of, in his mind, that's how free market marketing would work. Like, do you have a need for this? If yes, well, here's our offering, and here's, here are the specifics about it. And that's as far as it goes. And he uses the example of, like bikini clad, women and so on selling toothpaste. It's like not really immediately relevant or, connects the dots. But again, it's that sort of like emotional attachment that I think is certainly part of it. So I think a little more on the product side, I think, but
I think they both have their premise. I mean, I think from a brand perspective, if you have a really good brand story, you could convince someone to buy something that they really don't need.
Yeah, and my question is like, is that really what is that?
No, I don't necessarily think that that's the way we should go, but
right? That's
I don't.
The question there.
Yeah, I don't think that's the way we should go, but I do think that it's important to state the fact that with the right brand story, you can convince people to buy almost anything.
No, absolutely. Okay, so we're at 1:35, 5 minutes past the start time, and thanks everybody for joining us again. I'm here with Callie Kreese, who the director of partnerships and my counterpart at Katapult. Katapult is, in I think their own words, a sort of like subpriming financing option for e-commerce merchants. And the conversation that we were looking to have today was on, what to do with checkout and with the final sort of transactional experiences that a merchant may offer or a consumer might go through before purchasing a product. And to what extent should merchants, based on what they're selling, to what extent should they be offering different sort of financing options for consumers? What does it affect in any way, their average order value? Does it, if there is a degradation in, average order value, is there, a corresponding uptick in, market size that you're now playing in? What are the when, where, and whys of cart add-ins? And I think, subprime, lending options, like Katapult in particular. There's a lot of players in this space. Obviously, we've seen even some folks kind of likening it to kind of like payday lending kind of a thing. But here's the thing: the squeeze is on if you're a consumer, right? And if you're a consumer who has a car loan and college loans and right, and you're trying to buy a house, or you've recently done so, and you've got like a need for a particular product, and perhaps the the prime or the financial institution that you might otherwise be able to finance through is not an option for you. There are tens, hundreds of millions of people that described. And so, what Katapult is here to do is sort of, help merchants connect with that market. And then the question becomes, is that a net positive, for, consumers, merchants, and everyone other than the Katapults of the world, right? And so this is sort of an interesting question, as e-commerce percentages of total retail volume grow, and the numbers of people who are transacting online grow, people who are looking to transact but do fall into subprime categories of credit and so on. What's an ideal scenario? Are there particular industries, products? Is there a sort of luxury delineation where if you are the merchant, you might not want to offer these services? These are all sort of like open questions that I think, we'd love to hear, Callie sort of respond to in general, as well as give her sort of raison d'etre and, the sort of who, what, when, where, and whys of Katapult and maybe the, lending options industry market writ large. So I'll hand it over to Callie, who we're very happy to have with us today.
Yeah, no, thanks, Dan. I appreciate the opening, and really happy to be here and talk about, just checkout in general. We don't have to focus on subprime. I'd like to cover just checkout in general, add-ons, financing, and what that means for these different merchants and the consumers. So, obviously checkout is the holy grail. Checkout is where we want all of our customer to end up. We want them to get there. We want them to check out. We want them to convert ultimately. My belief is that I think that the kind of the three bears approach, not too much, not too little, just the right amount. I think that really comes down to understanding your customer, looking at your data and understanding what your customers are wanting. And I think that not all solutions fit every merchant. And I think, so to put it like this, Katapult fits in the subprime and no credit consumer market. So we're focusing on a very particular customer segment. And the truth of the matter is that 47% of the US population needs to split up or pay over time for a purchase of $400 or more. So there is a large portion of the United States that simply needs that option. And then there's also a huge percentage that have a FICO score under 700 that just don't simply qualify for those prime offers. So that just shows that the absolute need for this subprime and no credit consumer space to be served. And, going back to the previous session too, there's just this shift online, and not just for COVID, everything's going online. And up until before Katapult, there really wasn't an online or e-commerce solution helping those customers be able to purchase the items that they need. And so Katapult has come together to fill that void, to be able to serve those customers and allow them to get those products. But how we kind of fit in the market is, we're not the only purchase option available. You have your prime options, the ones that you're very familiar with, I'm sure, the Affirms, Klarnas, and Breads of the world. There are your prime offers. They're looking at 650 FICO score and above. And where Katapult fits in is that we can basically monetize the declines from those prime offers. So it's an incremental revenue increase for the merchant. And like the primes, we're kind of a no risk option for the merchant, because we're taking on the risk of, capturing the payment. So it's a way for them to, one, serve a new customer segment, two, be able to serve those customers that may not be able to, purchase those high ticket items. And three, just providing choice. I think having the right amount of choice is perfect. There are a couple different examples. So you have your buy now, pay laters. So you have your firms, Klarna's, Breads, but then you have your pay in fours. Klarna has a pay in four, Quad Pay, Sezzle, Split It. And then you have your subprime like Katapult. And which one do you need? If you're looking at a price point on your site between $100 and $300, you may not really need the heavy hitters. You might just need a pay in four, where the price point splitting over 4 payments is fairly reasonable. What if you have a price point that's, say over $500, or your average order value is $1,000, $2,000, pay in four doesn't really make sense, because pay in four is $254,000 is high. So then you might look at more of a financing option where you're splitting up those payments over 10, 12, 18, or 24 months. That's where you might need your prime and your subprime. And then for those merchants that already have a prime option, a good way to maybe see if your consumers are wanting or needing a subprime is to see how many declines you're getting. If you're seeing a large amount of declines, 50% or more of your primes being declined, that means that you have consumers that don't meet that credit threshold trying to buy your products and they can't. So that's where Katapult would be a great option. And to go back to your point too, kind of where Katapult may have had a narrative, you mentioned payday loans. That's something Katapult's really trying to change. You see a lot of these buy now, pay laters, going 0% interest, no late fees like Affirm. Katapult's trying to do the same thing and being very customer centric, and essentially trying to just provide an outlet for the consumer that can't normally check out to check out. You are a subprime consumer and your refrigerator breaks, and you have to be able to get a new refrigerator to keep food cold for your family, and you can't check out anywhere because no one will accept your credit. What do? An internal revenue report said, those people really have no options. They're either having to sell goods they already have to come up with the cash, or they're having to borrow from friends or family because they can't qualify. And the credit limits that they do have aren't enough to cover those high-level purchases, because they're usually pretty already, taking up all of their credit. That's where Katapult comes in. We can service them. We can qualify them for a loan, or a lease rather, and they can pay that over time. And it's very transparent. They know what they're going to pay. They know how much they're going to pay in each payment. They aren't going to have any late fees, and they'll have early purchase options so that they can save money. And I think that it's important to have solutions in your checkout for every single consumer type of consumer. And that's where it comes to like the clutter and the other services. I think it's not just financing. I think there are other services that are really important too, depending on your business. You have warranty and protection plans. You have, maybe your customers feel really strongly about social issues and they want to be able to donate, and they want to, to be able to have a service at checkout where they can donate to their favorite charity, like Shopping Gives, and product and warranty and protection plans. They like Clyde, they want to be able to protect their items, which helps with, customer loyalty, because, they feel like they can come back and protect their products. And then financing, if they have a really great experience with their financing, that helps the brand perception because they were able to have a great experience to pay for their product. And I can talk to Katapult in particular. We have a 45% return customer rate. meaning they're coming back and purchasing again from the brands that they qualified with Katapult. So that's, a really great story for both the consumer, the merchant, and for financing options. And I know that others have very similar stories. So I'll leave it at that. If you want to jump in a different topic or questions, kind of coming out of that initial statement, but I know that was a lot to absorb at first.
No. And thank you so much. Yeah. I'm first curious just about like from the merchant's point of view, and a sort of a question is like, is there a worry of, brand dilution, right? I think folks are, and maybe this describes consumers and not merchants, but, if you've gone out and spent, a lot of money on, like a high end or luxury item and so on, and then you see it on the rack at Marshall's or TJ Maxx, right? I think there's, certainly been a complaint before, right? And then I think, for a merchant point of view is like, if you have, in particular, a sort of high end luxury brand, you want to kind of convey a certain status, right? So say for example, like, I don't know that too many bespoke tailors are, e-commerce enabled, and probably aren't offering very many financing options.
Probably not.
For the thing. And I think it's like, they want to, have a very, very personal relationship with the people that, that buy their products and, and wear them out and so on. Is that a kind of a cultural hurdle, or one that, you've heard merchants, express before, with wanting perhaps a cleaner cart experience, you're going to pay what it is and that's that. And, whoever can't afford it, I'm not really worried about that. What would you say to merchants, sort of in that boat, or just in general kind of want to keep their brand, as exclusive as possible?
Yeah, for those luxury brands that want to stay as exclusive as possible, I completely respect their premise. And it may be the case that their consumer base is very much not in need of any financing. I think that's perfectly viable. There are going to be merchants that aren't a good fit for Katapult or any other financing, just simply maybe for the point that you're making, that they are just so luxury that the consumers that they're attracting already know how expensive and luxurious it is, and they're coming to the table knowing they're going to have to pay more and that they can afford it. That self-aware customer who knows who they are, they know they're coming to buy, and they really don't need those other options. You will see.
Is it really? Let me just jump in. Is it really sort of like it's you find yourself as one of those merchants, without the option? What can you tell us? What data is available on? Okay, I went to buy this particular product here, right? I couldn't, right?
Mm-hmm.
I still am interested in buying it. I go here. Well, this website, reseller of the same product and so on, does offer me financing options. What then is my relationship with the site that I bought it from, the brand itself? Are you losing loyalty, if by not offering options and someone else does? Is it, if you're tracking on that?
Yeah, I have specific stats right off the top of my head, but what I can tell you is that, you're attracting, I'll use Katapult as an example because I know those the best, and I don't want to speak to other brands without, I don't want to misspeak about other brands, but what I can say about Katapult is that, when a consumer is searching for no credit payment options, and they come across Katapult, they're going to go to Katapult Store Locator, and they're going to look at all of the brands that we have where they can buy the items that they need, whether they're looking for tires or they're looking for a sofa or they're looking for a laptop, whatever the case may be. They can browse through our Store Locator, and then they can get to that website and know that they'll have a no credit option. Right. So that's one way. And then, of course, by shopping there, I reference back that return customer rate. On average, our customers are doing 1.9 leases. So roughly coming back for another lease on average. So they're going to go back to our Store Locator and maybe purchase another item from another retailer because they have, open to buy credit. there are other buy now pay laters who are doing the same kind of marketplace thing. So you're basically getting access to the millions and millions of people who have gone and been pre-approved for these financing offers and making yourself available to them. So for example, Katapult has over 1.6 million customers right now. And so a merchant starts using Katapult, they're basically opening themselves up to those 1.6 million customers who could now potentially shop with them, a whole new customer that they weren't serving previously. So I think, that's an interesting thing to think about is, by sometimes with these different buy now pay later purchase options, you're opening yourselves up to a new network. Of all the people that use that tool, now you're open and accessible to that network. And those customers will know because those payment options they've qualified for and they want to work with, you're on their store locator. And now they know, I can now go shop at this store or that store. And you could see, a lot of cross-pollination there, which could be pretty interesting or great for them for a new customer segment. I think that, but at the same time, I want to be fair that, certain payment methods aren't always the right fit for everybody. And it comes down to what are your customers looking for? And to go back to that luxury retailer, that's selling the $10,000 luxury sofa, that buyer is going to be very different than, say, like an overstock.com or that consumer who's maybe more price conscious and looking for something that is high quality, but maybe price overrides that need for quality. And they're looking for ways to split payments because they're in a position where they can't just go throw down $1,000 on an item. So you have to, these merchants really have to know their consumer base and what they're looking for. And one of the basis metrics you can think of is, as a merchant, if you see your high ticket carts are just being abandoned at a very high rate, it very likely is because the price is too high and there wasn't a finance option for them to be able to split the payments over time.
Yep. Which sort of gets into the whole thing of, the when and wheres of coupons and, and managing, that whole process and sort of figuring out, when it's appropriate, where it's appropriate for what products and so on. So right now you guys are able to do business or take on merchants in 46 out of 50 states. What's going on in New Jersey, Washington, and the few others that I wouldn't be able to sign up for your service?
So in my understanding is that the reason we can't work in those states is due to licensing issues, the same reason why you can't buy certain insurance in certain states. There's just, our certain finance option, does require certain licensing and approvals, and every state has their own set of laws when it comes to different products. So I think that's the best way to answer that question is just state regulations.
Sure.
And of course, Katapult, just like any other financing or lender, is simply trying to make sure they're following all regulations and being as transparent as possible to the customers that we work with.
And so, all right, so here's another question. Like I'm the merchant, and chiefly I'm worried about the user's experience on my website, right? And we've already gone and added extensions for heat mapping and behavioral analytics, for email marketing, for all of these different extensions that run off the site, right? And we're adding little bits of software here and there. I mean, is this going to muddle my transaction user experience? Is this going to, in the words of Jaron Chainer, create, friction to the checkout process? To what extent is this going to slow my site, the transaction itself? Is that a thought?
So yeah, no, I can speak to that. So we've modeled Katapult's option very much in the same way that the others have modeled theirs. So we have the same amount of fields to fill out, so there isn't much difference there as far as time. Our decisioning is less than 5 seconds for approvals. We are inline in checkout, so we're not actually taking a consumer away from checkout. So it's very similar to the Affirms, Klarnas, and Breads of the world, that they, when you're displayed in checkout, obviously, just like you see in most checkouts, you'll see maybe they have credit and debit card, they can choose PayPal, or they can choose Katapult. And they may click the radio button for Katapult. They complete our experience. It takes less, maybe 30 seconds, tops. And then they go complete their checkout, and that's it. I mean, they come to the table with the same thing they would come to regular checkout with, is their debit card. We're not requiring any additional information from them. We're not requiring any sort of anything that they wouldn't give any other buy now, pay later option. So the experience isn't clunkier or anything of that nature. It's very much in line with checkout. So from a consumer point of view, if they've experienced the Affirms or Klarnas of the world, then their experience with Katapult isn't going to be very much different. So in that respect, I don't think that it makes it clunky in the checkout. What I do think makes it clunky is when a merchant takes it overboard and tries to offer multiple solutions for the same type of customers. Right. So they have PayPal credit, Bread, Firm, and Klarna all together. That's just cannibalizing the consumers. That doesn't help anybody. I think what helps keep it streamlined, not clunky, and useful for the consumer is to have very definitive options for each type of customer in the checkout, keeping it clean, but still having choice. I think, if you keep it too clean, you're removing the choice, and you're potentially losing out on customers who want to shop with you.
Oh, we got a great question from I love this question. Do you see actually sort of like legacy layaway customers using Katapult, right? I mean, so this is really what we're talking about, right? I mean, and I think it's like really an interesting thing in e-commerce is, and sometimes people forget, but you're really just digitizing something that already happened, right? Long ago in a brick and mortar retail world, right, where there was the layaway counter next to where the gift wrapping ladies would be, and all of these sorts of things, and so that's the question I think is a great one. Is it seen as the sort of modern layaway, or is there a sort of like you should actually use the word nostalgia, but
yeah, I mean you're right. The lease to purchase was something that existed, before. It's not a new concept. However, bringing it to the digital world, the e-commerce merchant is new. And in some ways, I guess you could say, it could be the layaway customer. But what Katapult has really tried to do is create a new sort of lease to own. There is this stereotype or nostalgia or memories of LTOs past, but we're really trying to come up with a customer centric, really trying to support and help those consumers grow and have a solution to buy the things that they need. And so I mean, a couple of ways that we've kind of broken that mold or that nostalgia of what that used to be is like obviously no late fees. That's a huge one for us. We want to reconcile versus repossession. We're not doing warehouse fire sales where we're taking products and throwing them in stores and trying to sell them on these fire sales. That's just not how we operate. We're trying to provide transparent and easy to use purchase options for those subprime consumers, a product that they can trust, that they come back to, and that they have early purchase options where they can save money, and buy the items that they need for their families. And so I like to steer away. I like to say that we're creating a new narrative for this space, for these customers, because they exist. They deserve to have options just like everyone else. And they deserve to have it where everyone else is shopping and not feel like that they're, kind of forced to make their purchases in the shadows. They're human beings, and everybody deserves the options that they need to purchase the brands they want to purchase from.
Agreed. Callie, we're going to finish up a couple minutes early, and thank you so much for joining us today. Really, really, really appreciate your time. We're going to get the next session started on time at 2:10. The time on deck right now is 1,401 hours, so we got about 9 minutes to it. Thank you so much again, Callie, and the folks over at Katapult. We really enjoyed having you, and look forward to having you on some of our next virtual events as well. And of course, like working together with prospects and clients, I think probably most importantly, but certainly edifying for me, and I think the rest of the audience. So we'll bid adieu now, and thanks so much again for your time, Callie.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me, and I hope everyone takes advantage of the 9-minute break.
Yeah,
absolutely. Stretch your legs, get some water, drink some coffee.
That's right. Yeah, a little bathroom break, get a snack, hydrate or die. Get that blood sugar up. We don't want people falling out. We've got 2 really outstanding sessions. I think you're going to be lively debates to finish up the day. We're going to be talking about marketing channel optimization, the sort of evolution of the marketing scheme in general, and then finally the battle between B2B salespeople and e-commerce tools. The blood feud continues. So we'll be starting off the next. You can enter the room in 3 minutes for the next panel, and we'll look forward to having you then. Thank you so much again, Callie.
Thanks. Bye.